energy sensitive, 3 mistakes that's gonna be like a punch in the gut. Oh. Hello, I'm Fractal Future, and welcome to the Vanguard Light. We help energy sensitive people take it to the next level. So we gotta go, and we're talking about 3 mistakes that as an energy sensitive person you're most likely going to make, and it's going to be like getting punched in the gut. Oh, I hate when I get punched in the gut. Luckily it doesn't really happen. But anyway, for energy sensitive, like, you know, you're more tuned in, you're dialed into the energy, it's going to feel like getting a punch in the gut, and it can also then confuse you. And for energy sensitive people, being confused is like one of the worst things for your abilities, because it makes you doubt them. It makes you feel like you're a crazy person, right? When you're dialed in and it's working, it feels fantastic. So we want to stay in that place more. And these 3 mistakes are likely to trip you up. So what are those 3 mistakes? I'm going to go from 3, 2, 1, because the 1 is the most intense. And we're going to warm you up with number 3. So number 3 is confusing a normal person or a norm with an energy sensitive person. Now, energy sensitive people aren't better than norms. Norms aren't better than energy sensitive people. They're just different. So a normal person kind of is not dialed into this non-physical world. Consciously, intentionally not dialed in. They are a being of light too. They're fully hooked in, but they're kind of choosing, I don't want to look at it. I don't want to feel it, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, but they're like, I don't want to know about it. They're connected to a higher power like we all are. They might have belief, but they don't have that deep sense, that deep connection, and that deep knowing of a higher power. It's like here and now, right? And they're kind of like, if you start, you know, talking energy sensitive to them, you're going to get that smack, because they really don't want to hear it. Because they're doing a lot, and the thing is, why would it throw you? Why you think it's like, oh, obviously they're a norm? No, because they're being a light. You're energy sensitive. You're going to be feeling all the stuff that's going on in them, just like another energy sensitive person. That's going to happen, like, because they are being a light. But it's observing their behavior when you talk to them to see, are they tuned in and willing to be tuned in? You know, because otherwise they're going to give you the smackdown, because they don't want to be. They've, on some level, chosen not to be. So when you start talking about, you know, deeper meaning, being connected, you know, sources here, they're going to come at you sideways, you know, and it's going to throw you, because you're going to think like, well, I can tell. Can't you tell? You got this feeling here, and it's inside of you, and this has happened. What are you talking about? Right? That's gonna be like a punch in the gut, because it's like, wait, what's going on? Why? And then it'll be almost doubt of like wanting to prove it to them. Like, no, look, it's real. It's this. And realize like, no, they don't want to hear it. They're norm. It's okay. We just love them, right? And realize like, oh, they don't want that yet. At some point, you know, we can bless them. You know, they still affected by blessings. Don't tell them like, hey, look, I'm blessing you. You know, they might be offended. They might be upset by that. I'm like, don't give me that blessing crap. Right? And then you're going to feel, oh, what? That's just realizing they're a norm, right? Versus when you find someone that's energy sensitive and you start talking, you know, energy sensitive about energy and this, you just get lit up. It just gets exciting and get boosted, and you're like, yeah, you know what I mean? Oh my gosh. When you walk in there and you get that vibe and you have that sense and you're this, yeah. And that's really good to nurture that. Like realize, okay, norms you're going to talk to in a certain way. Energy sensitives you're going to talk into a certain way, and kind of, you know, realize like, oh, I'm going to have a deeper connection there, because they've awoken up to energies consciously, and they're choosing it and they're exploring it, and it's going to be fun. And you get to have that vibe of like, oh yeah, and that belief inside you just blossoms, and it's wonderful. Versus if you go with like, oh my gosh, energy is so great, to a norm, boom, you're going to get the punch in the gut. So what's number 2? Number 2 is other energy sensitive people. Misreading another energy sensitive person, or getting into the battle on energy of like, they see it in a certain way, you see it in a different way, and then almost like there's my way is right and your way and it's wrong, and you're getting the wrong intuitive vibe and I'm getting the right one, or mine's right and yours wrong, and you know, this is my technique and that's your technique, and and getting into that battle that, you know, energy is very diverse, very expressive. You know, it's like you go out in nature, right? And there's all this diversity, right? But a pine tree, like this huge pine tree next to us, it's still nature, right? It's still nature, but it's completely different than a blade of grass, right? And the expression of a blade of grass is going to be way different than a pine tree. And the concerns of a pine tree will be different. The realities of a pine tree will be different versus that of a blade of grass, right? And so when you're talking to an energy sensitive person, it's having that openness of like, oh, maybe I'm the blade of grass and they're a pine tree. Or it could be like a pine tree and I don't know if you can see them. Oh yeah, so there. So in the background we got some, what are those trees? I'm forgetting their name. I'm blanking. Aspens. We got some aspens because we're at high elevation. And aspens and pine trees are different trees, right? And they behave differently. They look differently. They have different concerns. And it's like, you know, but they're both trees, right? This is like a closer example versus like a blade of grass and a tree, but both being nature, right? And when you go into the energy conversation, I'll realize you guys are both awake. You're both connected. You might be dialed into a different part, you know. One's dialed into the aspen tree part and one's dialed into the pine tree part, and realize that you're gonna have differences. And you don't battle those differences. You accept it like, oh cool, you've got differences, you're seeing stuff in a different way than me. And that's fine. And it doesn't diminish what I'm seeing, what I'm acknowledging. Because if you get in that battle, it's gonna bring a whole bunch of doubt. You know, it's that same thing when you go to a norm of like, I don't believe this stuff, versus you guys are both believing, but it's like, no, it's this way, and anybody that believes that way is crap. And you're like, no, anybody that doesn't believe this way, you're crap, you know? Boom! It's a punch in the gut. It's an energetic punch in the gut to go into that battle. To be like, you know, boom, you're not do that. As opposed to seeing of like, no, we're both awake. We're just seeing something different. You know, maybe I'm seeing like it's like you're talking about an elephant. You know, they're touching one side of it and you're touching another side, and they look different. But it's like, no, the elephant's all the same. It's energy. They just got a different view. And if you can just enjoy, doesn't mean you have to change your view, but just enjoy that they got a view and be like, oh, cool. Wow, you see it that way? And that it's okay for them to see it that way. That doesn't change how you see it or how you construct it. And that they could do their clearing, their energy process, and completely work and fine and be consistent and awesome. And you can do your energy process and it be consistent and work and awesome. And you serve your people, they serve their people, you're serving people, you're raising the light. It's all happening. It's good, it's awesome, it's amazing. And you embrace that and you're excited and you're happy and you're yeah. Versus battling them and getting the punch in the gut. So now, and that's number 2. Because now it's like your kinfolk and all of a sudden you're getting punched in the gut. It feels worse than like, well, they just don't believe. Like the norms, they just didn't believe. It's fine. They don't feel good, but they don't believe. This is like, hey, this is a believer, but they don't believe the same thing. It's like worse. And now, the number 1. Are you ready for the number 1? Because this is the biggest gotcha. It's the big gotcha, right? We got the norms. We got the energy sensitive. The number 1. The biggest one, which you're going to get a punch in the gut, is you. Is realize you are multidimensional, right? And you're also going to be going through different cycles. So energy, non-physical energy work is going to be different at different times of the day for you, at different times in your life, and to different like parts of your multidimensionalness of it. Like, so your physical body is going to have different concerns than your non-physical body. Your mind, your spirit, but they're not separate. You know, it's not like, oh, because the physical body needs this, that means what the mind was experiencing, well, that's all crap. Or what the mind is experiencing and its viewpoint is this way, that means the body's crap. It's just realize you're gonna have different perspectives inside of you, right? Different expressions, emotions, and experiences of this non-physical world inside of you and at different times. And is not to battle yourself to where it's like, well, this technique works, but that one doesn't. But then all of a sudden this technique works, but that one doesn't. Instead of being like, well, this is the good one and that's the bad one. And no, this is the good one and that's the bad one. And there must be something wrong with yours. And this is, you know, kind of the same way you get that finger pointing with another energy sensitive that sees it different than you. You get that internal pointing and battling of where, well, it worked this way and it didn't work that way, as opposed to being like, okay, this is this magic world of energy and I'm multidimensional. So it's going to affect me in different ways depending on which dimension I'm in. And what, you know, one technique that works really great for my body in 3D, if I'm here in 3D, won't work great when I'm fully in the non-physical, right? And realizing that if I'm not fully in the non-physical, but doing a non-physical technique, then maybe that doesn't work. And just getting in the excitement and the joy of like, okay, what happened? What's going on? This energy thing is real. It's magical. Did a perspective change? You know, am I getting open to new information? You know, and staying in that place of wonder and joy of like the difference, like, oh, cool, I'm experiencing in a different way. Oh, this is a different aspect of me and it experiences it in a different way. And that's okay. And just embrace that of like, okay, cool, that's new. New information, a new learning, a new excitement. We're on the same team. Internally, you're on the same team, you know? And then like you're unified. And you can be joyous and you can embrace the difference. Because that's the number one that's gonna get you. I mean, the norms, you can get that, still punch in the gut. Energy sensitives that are kind of conflicting is like, it's a little harder, more punch in the gut. But man, when you're conflicting internal to yourself, it is like the big whammy and you never get away from yourself. But when you can start unifying that and start embracing that and realize that's just okay, I'm multidimensional, there's gonna be differences. Cool. This multidimensional thing will have more ways to respond. It's getting stronger, more dynamic, more robust when you embrace it and bring it together and unify that way, as opposed to being like, it's got to be monolithic and it's got to be this way, as opposed to, no, we're going to be diverse, we're going to be adaptive, right? And that'd be like number one, where you internally become adaptive. And then with energy sensitive people, you become adaptive with them, so now we're on the same team. And then even with norms, you become adaptive, you are on the same team and you don't get into the battle because you just have differences. So hopefully that's brought you some agency, you know, to where it's like, hey, wait a second, I can be energy sensitive, I can increase my abilities and not be getting punched in the gut. You know, that I have more ability to sense, to embrace, to uplift people in the way they need to be uplifted, including myself. So hopefully you like this. If you did, give me a like, click the like button. It will help push it out to more people. And if you want more content like this, click on the subscribe button, click the notification. We'll be posting every day. And until we talk again, have a blessed day or a blessed night.